Okay, so chapter 6, it's about bones and bone tissue. So we're going to see in this chapter the functions of the skeletal system. We're going to see the components of the bone, like the cells, the extracellular matrix. We're going to see as well examples of the microscopic structure of the major classification of bones that we have for the bone tissue, which is compact and which is spongy. And we're going to see the types of cartilage that we have. And we're going to see the roles of the dense, regular, and irregular connective tissue in the skeletal system. So another thing that we're going to see in this chapter is to learn what is the classification of the bones based on shape, and we're going to see the parts of a long bone. Long bones, they have different parts. And we're going to see as well how this bone forms, how the bone grows, how it repairs and how it remodels, and what are some of the hormones and nutrients that influence the health of bone. So the introduction. So bones are highly vascular. So these bones, what it means with highly vascular is that they have a lot of blood supply. And they have a lot of nerves that provide sensation. They are highly innervated. So they are living organs, and they're made of specialized cells. We will see the types. And these cells are surrounded by an extracellular matrix. Functions of the bone: to provide a structural support, to protect vital organs. What bones protects our heart and our lungs? The sternum and the ribs. Enable the movement through through joints. For instance, we have we have two bones here in the forearm, and then we have one in the arm. And they connect at the elbow joint. So we can do this movement, right? Flexion, extension, among others. Imagine if we had only a single bone for the upper limb. To grab an object like this that is nearby, instead of me doing this, I would have to withdraw like this and grab it like that. And then do it like this. So we have then connections between the bones to help to manipulate the environment, to produce movement. So bone formation, growth, and remodeling and repair allow the adaptation to physiological and mechanical demands throughout life. So it is highly recommended that as we age, we start doing exercise that involves lifting weights. Why? Because that puts stress into our bones, and that makes our bones to be stronger. They respond by depositing more bone. So, in this chapter, we're going to see the correlation between cells and tissue concepts that we learned before. And then we're going to connect the microscopic anatomy of the bone tissue, how it is essential for health and mobility, this microscopic anatomy. So the major functions of the bone will be providing support and structure to our body. So we have a specific characteristics. So we have our lower limbs, our upper limbs that allow us to manipulate the environment. We have the torso with the ribs, the vertebrae, the sternum that forms these cavities, help us to form these cavities so that we can protect internal organs. It's like if we had a little tunnel inside our body. So that's providing support and structure. Not only you protect the heart and the lungs, but also the brain, the spinal cord. So we have the skull bones, we have the vertebrae, and facilitates the movement because the muscles that help us to basically bring the bones together crosses the joints and connect into distal portions so that we can flex and extend our upper limbs, our lower limbs. So form a site of attachment for muscles. And a major function is to store minerals like calcium, phosphate, magnesium. And these are necessary for contraction of the muscles themselves and for many other functions. We will see calcium role in many systems. Blood cells are produced in the bones, in the bone marrow. The bone marrow, it's a cavity inside long bones. And then if it's producing blood cells, it's going to be called red marrow. In young people, you have a lot of red marrow in your bones. As we age, this red marrow will go converted into the yellow marrow, which is basically storage of adipose tissue. And then our bones can buffer changes in hydrogen in our body, hydrogen levels. So they help to maintain acid-base balance. Buffering, what it means is like quenching, so preventing big changes in the concentration of hydrogen ions. So here is a view of these functions. So if you see internally in our skull, we have this delicate tissue. This is the brain. It is protected by the skull bones. The mineralized part of the bone is calcium hydroxyapatite. So it's calcium combined with phosphate groups. And then here in this long bone, which is the femur, this is the thigh bone, we have in these specific parts, if you are an adult, all adult, you will have bone marrow that helps to form these blood cells. And then you will have in this medullary cavity, you will have yellow marrow storing fat. And then if you magnify the knee joint, you will see the connection between this femur and the tibia that help us to flex the knee, extend the knee. So because all of you are seated right now, you have a flexed knee. And then when you're standing, you have an extended knee. And then all the weight of our body from head to toe end up being transferred into this bone in the heel that is called the calcaneus. How many times when someone is so tired of walking a lot or working a lot standing during the day, you will feel pain in this area? That's because you carry all the weight of your body there. So now, the bone tissue, what cells do they have and what is the function of those cells? So we have in the bone tissue three types of cells. We have osteoblasts, osteocytes, and osteoclasts. Remember what I told you before, blast means immature cell. And then osteoblasts, they build the bone matrix. The surrounding of the cells is the matrix. Osteocytes maintain that matrix. So osteocytes are the mature bone cells. And osteoclasts will be the cells that are large cells that resorbs bone. Our bones are constantly remodeling. They absorb calcium salts, deposit them into the matrix, and then they release them and get new ones. So all of these cells participate in the process of bone remodeling. And depending on the physical stress that some bones will have, it is where you deposit more calcium or maybe more extracellular matrix. The extracellular matrix majorly is made of collagen fibers. Don't think of the bones to be super rigid. The bones, they have to be also flexible. So here is a magnification of one of the regions in this area of the bone. So you can see the cells. So this is the extracellular matrix made out of collagen fibers. And then you have osteoprogenitor cells or osteogenic cells that are going to be converted into osteoblasts. So they have to duplicate during mitosis. And they make the osteoblasts. So osteogenic cells become osteoblasts. A baby becomes a child. And then the osteoblasts deposit bone until they are trapped, and then they become osteocytes. The osteocytes, now look how they change the shape. So these ones were cuboidal, and then they extend their cytoplasmic extensions to secrete bone matrix, to calcify the collagen fibers, and then they become entrapped in this matrix, and then they become like star shaped. So these are the osteocytes. The osteoclasts are made by the fusion of 2 to 3 macrophages. Macrophages are large cells, and then they fuse, and then you end up with a cell with multiple nuclei. It's large, has multiple nuclei, and then in one of the sides of these cells, you have something that is called a ruffled border. With this ruffled border, these osteoclasts, they secrete enzymes and hydrogen that is going to acidify this area of the matrix, and then you start reabsorbing this matrix. So you release amino acids and calcium and phosphate. And this calcium will go into the bloodstream. So for instance, if someone didn't have enough levels of calcium in their blood, which is called hypocalcemia, the heart cells, they still need to contract, so they need calcium. So these osteoclasts will secrete enzymes that destroys the bone, that reabsorbs the bone, so that they can release the calcium into the bloodstream so you can have normal levels of calcium so that your muscles can contract properly. I mean, if your skeletal muscles don't contract as much, who cares? But the card, it's always necessary to have calcium because it has to contract 24/7. So your bones become weaker when you have the action of this osteoclast. So this is the entire picture. While these ones, the osteoblasts and the osteocytes, makes new bone, which is called bone deposition, the osteoclast reabsorb bone. This is bone reabsorption. So these ones deposit bone, these ones reabsorb bone. So those were the cells. Osteocytes, osteoblasts, and osteoclasts. Now let's look at the bone matrix, which is what it surrounds these cells. So we have two major components, organic matrix and inorganic matrix. Organic matrix is basically made out of collagen fibers. It's also known as osteoid. And the collagen fibers are one type of collagen that is called type 1. And these collagen fibers form the osteoid or the organic matrix. Collagen is proteins. It provides tensile strength and flexibility. So these collagen fibers are embedded within the ground substance, which is made out of proteoglycans. So proteoglycans are a combination of what? Two molecules. Proteo sounds like what? Proteins, and then glycans are I see these glucose. It's carbohydrates, glucose. So you have these collagen fibers embedded in proteoglycans and also glycoproteins, which is the same. So they help to maintain this structure, helping for these collagen fibers to stick within these proteoglycans and to absorb water. And this matrix is produced by the osteoblasts during osteogenesis. Osteogenesis is the formation of bone. Now, because we have this specific ratio of calcium to collagen fibers, our bones, they're supposed to be able to resist not very strong but normal forces of twisting and stretching so that you don't have brittle bones. So that's the organic matrix. Now the inorganic matrix is made out of calcium salts. So 10 calcium atoms combined with 6 phosphates and 2 hydroxyls. This is called hydroxyapatite crystals. So this is the component of this inorganic matrix. And this inorganic matrix, because it's hard tissue, provides the bone with its hardness and resistance to compression. And then you have the combination of organic and inorganic matrix that makes your bones to be healthy, supporting and protecting the organs in your body. And then whenever you deposit calcium and phosphate, this is called mineralization. And this happens around the collagen fibers. So look at these bones that we have here. This is what we call the fibulas. So these are normal bones. So what is happening in here? What do you have there? More than in here, in the bottom. What do you have most in the top panel? So look at this bone. It broke into pieces. And this one is very flexible. But why it broke into pieces? What is missing there? The collagen. So here is more calcium than collagen. So the bones are super rigid, brittle, they can break really easily. And then in here, if you remove the calcium, the bones are super flexible. It's like us. We cannot be super rigid, like always saying no, no, no. I mean, we won't have friends. But you cannot be over flexible. You have also space and time for doing things. If you're always helping people, I mean, of course you have a lot of friends, but you also need time to rest. So you don't have to be super flexible, but don't be too rigid. So now let's look at the remodeling process of the tissue in bone and what is its function. So remodeling is basically replacing old bone with new bone. And this helps to maintain a strength and mineral balance. So during remodeling, you undergo bone reabsorption, bone formation, and bone maintenance. Once in a while, it's nice to rearrange your furniture, but don't do it every week because you will start forgetting where things are and then you will get tired. So, bone reabsorption. The osteoclasts break down the bone matrix. And then these do so by secreting acid and enzymes. We saw this before, releasing calcium and phosphate into the bloodstream. And then you follow by bone formation, which is depositing first the organic matrix by the osteoblasts, the osteoid. So you deposit the collagen fibers, and then you deposit the calcium by mineralizing your organic matrix. So that will restore your bone strength. And then after that, you have bone maintenance. So your osteocytes will sense mechanical stress in different directions, and then they will localize the activity of these cells appropriately through cell signaling. You can tell, well, I mean, I'm receiving more stress by someone who's basically building their biceps, so these bones will become stronger because you have more tension. So now let's look at the classification of bones by shape. So if the bones are longer than wider, they will be classified as long bones. Long bones, we have them in places like the upper limb and the lower limbs into what we call the appendicular skeleton. Long bones have a middle portion that is called the shaft, and they have two endings that are called epiphyses. We have a proximal and a distal epiphysis. Examples of long bones will be the femur, this bone, and the humerus, this bone. Short bones are nearly equal in width and length, and we have it in areas like the wrist and the ankle. The wrist bones are called carpals. The ankle bones are called metacarpals. Flat bones. Flat bones doesn't necessarily need to be perfectly flat. Sometimes they can have curves like the ones that we have here in the school. These are thin bones that they have two layers of compact bone surrounding a middle layer of spongy bone. Examples of flat bones, we have the sternum, which is found here in the middle of our chest. We have it also in the scapula, the wing blade bone, and the skull bones. All of these are flat bones. Irregular bones, they don't fit into the previous category. They have a complex shape. So we have the vertebrae in our spinal cord. These are irregular bones, and the pelvic bones are also irregular bones. Now, we have bones that forms within tendons in our body. And these are called the sesamoid bones. So we have 208 bones in our body, adults. And the only two sesamoid bones that we count towards that number will be the patella, the kneecaps. So those are sesamoid bones. They form within tendons. So here is a view of this classification of the bones. So this is the arm. We have the humerus. It's a long bone. Here we have a carpal bone, the trapezius. It's a short bone. Here we have the patella in the knee. This is the kneecap. So this is the example of a sesamoid bone. We have the vertebrae, which are irregular bones in the spinal cord, and then the sternum, connecting the right side and the left side ribs. So this is a flat bone. Now we also have other sesamoid bones that are minor ones, like the form between the skull bones, but they don't count toward the 208 bones that we have. And also at the base of our thumb and at the base of the great toe, we have sesamoid bones there, and vary depending on the person. I think we have enough for this part.